All right, Gator fans, it is Mississippi State Week. And so we have Steve Robertson, who is part of the 247 Sports Network, covering Mississippi State on Gene's page. Steve, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing good. I hope that you guys can see and hear me. I've got an antiquated laptop I need to replace, so sometimes it gets a little bit dicey, but it's good to be with you.
All right, Steve. So Mississippi State has been one of the more exciting teams to watch this year in college football, at least for me. Got off to a good start, 4-0. They had that upset win over Arizona State, and then they went into overtime with Tennessee, which certainly could have gone Mississippi State's way. Then a loss to Texas A&M, which we're in the same boat with that loss. What do you think the mindset is right now coming off of back-to-back losses and then a bye week?
Well, the open date helps, right? I mean, you get off to the good start. We feel like we should have beat Tennessee. That game was there for the taking. Give Tennessee credit, they fought back, but there's a lot of people here that felt like State kind of grew up in that game and showed they were ready for the SEC.
Yeah.
I think A&M is better than most people expected them to be, especially defensively. I mean, they've got three SEC games under their belt, and they've allowed two third down conversions. I mean, that's legitimate right there. That's national championship caliber defense. But the open date helped. State was a little bit banged up after a couple weeks in the SEC, and they'll get a couple guys back this week. And it's always difficult to go on the road in the SEC. And listen, nobody's kidding themselves. Florida's the more talented team, but Florida's also 2-4, and there's all this noise in the machine right now. And I think there's a lot of people at Mississippi State that believe if they go in there and play their best game, they can come out of there with a win.
Yeah. In regards to what you said about Texas A&M, having seen LSU, Texas, Miami, and Texas A&M, I think Texas A&M is the best team Florida's played. Out of a lot of very good teams. So I agree with you on that. And you're right, UF has had their own struggles this year. Plus, this week in particular, there just has been so much controversy around Napier and whether or not he's going to get fired, whether or not he wins on Sunday. And looking at the remaining schedule, it feels like these teams both probably know that this is one of their better chances to pick up a win with what's left down the stretch. Do you feel like Mississippi State, I mean, if they play their best football, they can beat Florida, but when you look at the schedule, do you think this is one of the better opportunities to pick up a win?
Yeah, I think so, but it's so difficult to project that on the road in this league. But one of the things I talk about on my own show is you never know what your opponent's gonna look like when you get there.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the year, you looked at, hey, you got to go to Florida. That's going to be a tough Saturday. And then all of a sudden, there's all this chatter out here, and of course, Florida's now 2-4. This time last year, we projected Florida to come to Starkville with a 1-2 record. Thought they may be a little bit kind of beaten down emotionally. We thought it would be a chance State would have a chance to get a victory, even though Florida was the more talented team. And of course, you lose Blake Shapen in the game. Defensively, State was a complete disaster. Blake's healthy. State's much better defensively. And it seems like this year, Florida is the team that's got so much noise in the machine. And I'm curious to see how the players react to all of that. If you're Mississippi State, just go take care of business because all the pressure's on Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all of it is for sure. You mentioned Blake Shapen, and what have you thought of him this season overall, and how do you like him matched up against Florida's defense?
When given time, he can pick people apart. He makes really good decisions. State's had kind of a patchwork offensive line at times this year. I think they've only played two games with the same five in the starting lineup due to injuries. I mean, some of them have been 1 week injuries. I mean, you lose Blake Steen the first week of the year. He was your starting right tackle. You have to move some people around. So that's really the challenge is keeping Shapen clean. State, I think, has the athletes that can run with Florida from a skill position standpoint. You'd love to be able to have Fluff Bothwell back. He's out this week. Not a season-ending injury, but he won't play this week. But Davin Booth had a good game against Florida last year. And so I think in order for Blake to have the game he needs to, you got to come out and establish the run, hold those safeties basically in a situation where they're in a decision-making process. You can't let them just play two high safeties all day and think you're going to play pitch and catch. It's not going to happen that way. So
Mhm.
Pass protection's got to be good, but Blake's got to find a way to get that running game going so he can take some measured shots down the field.
Other side of the ball, UF wants to run the ball. That's well, at the very least, fans want them to run the ball. But the passing game has been inconsistent with Lagway at the helm. We all know that if you can establish the run, you open some things up for the pass. Do you think that Mississippi State tries to sell out to stop the run and then make Lagway attempt to beat them through the air?
Yeah, I think that's probably the game plan that everybody's going to employ in some respects. I mean, we have a lot of respect for Florida, and I grew up in the fun and gun era and all that good stuff too. And so you expect Florida to be able to run the football, period. And then you look at this year, what are they, 14th in the league in rushing offense? And I think what Jordan Bowe has about all but like 250 yards of rushing. I mean, that's just not the Florida that we've known. And when you think about the Billy Napier pedigree at UL Lafayette, I mean, he had a three running back system, and every guy was as good as the next. We're surprised, honestly, that Florida has not been better at running the football. But at the same time, too, we don't really care about that, right? We just want to go win a football game.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think what you do is you've got to force DJ to beat you with his arm, and you've seen, and when he's healthy, he's been capable of doing that.
sure.
You saw what he did against Texas, but you also saw what he did against LSU. So so which DJ is going to show up?
Yeah.
I know he had the big moment on the sidelines last week against Texas A&M. That game meant a lot to him, being from the state of Texas. But yeah, but the reality of it is I think Mississippi State's best path to victory is to force him to be a pocket passer, and that's something that's been real challenging for him.
Yeah, it has, and Florida's running game has been decimated by injuries. It's such an interesting thing to watch because I do think that Jaden Baugh is one of the best running backs in the country. He just hasn't had an offensive line, you know, consistently block for him this season. And we lost Jacoby Jackson and we lost Trayon Webb. And so we're at this point, and then we lost Duke Clark. So we are at this point, he's paired with our fifth string running back to kind of have a 1-2 punch, which is clearly not the same as having, basically 1A, 1B, 1C, which is what we were hoping to start the season with. But it's been head scratching, I think, for UF fans too. And, the whole season has been such a roller coaster. Defensively, they have been incredibly strong at moments. They are a little banged up, but their defensive line is still strong, even with the backups in. How do you think Florida's trenches compare and match up with Mississippi State's?
Well, I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost, right? I mean, who can influence the quarterback and who can. I mean, you look up, Florida has 9 sacks this year. State has 8. So neither team has just been great at
Yeah,
influencing the quarterback. Florida's had a handful of quarterback hurries. I mean, just something to get the ball out. State's had some of those too,
yeah,
but it's not like it was against Tennessee, and certainly not against Texas A&M. Now, I'm sure if I'm Florida, and I'm looking at this Mississippi State offensive line that has not found a lot of consistency with the lineup, I'm thinking, well, maybe this is a week we can get off a little bit. Maybe this is a week we can get to the quarterback and get a team in third and long. And that was the real issue at A&M is like State goes out trying to run max protect, and the very first pass you get sacked. Then on third down, you get sacked. And of course, I think you give up 4 sacks in the game, but 2 of them on the very first drive. And it's demoralizing for a team. So the thing that I think is so interesting about this game, both of these teams have been elite when it's come to scoring on the first offensive drive.
mhm,
Florida's done it 5 of 6 times. The only exception is Miami. I think State's done it 4 of 6 times. If State can force a stop early, that's the thing you begin to wonder about is if State can get a stop on that first drive and get Florida off script a little bit,
mhm.
because in the second half of these ball games, it feels like the Florida offense has bogged down. When
Yeah.
things are on to script in the first quarter and a half, they've done exceptionally well. And so I think that would be a huge win for State early to get up early and have a chance to at least be even going to the halftime, because I just think Napier's really struggled with second half adjustments offensively.
That's kind of the last 3.5 season things for him, unfortunately. As an outsider to the UF situation, Do you think the distractions of the week um, give Mississippi State an advantage? I really can't imagine what it's like for UF's players hearing and seeing all of this. It's such a odd situation to have boosters leak that a coach is going to be fired one way or the other. So the players think and believe that this is their coach's last game. Like it's just a lot of noise. And I have to feel like that's a huge advantage for Mississippi State, or at least could be.
I don't know if it's a huge advantage, but I certainly agree it is an advantage because no matter what anybody says, well, these players are like, "Oh, I delete my Twitter during season." They know what's being
Mhm.
said, and you got Gator media outlets that are reporting this, and then USA Today is reporting this, Yahoo Sports. It's impossible to keep that from your players, and in some ways, it's really unfair, right? And that's the thing that I think about too. Is like there are many of these guys too that if they fire Billy, all of a sudden the portal opens up for Florida players, right? So you've got to consider that and talk to your family and anything like if you're Mississippi State, anything that Florida's players and coaches have to talk about other than the game is a good
Mhm.
thing. I thought it was interesting. I transcribed the media opportunities from Monday. I think Billy had a 28-minute press conference and got asked two questions about Mississippi State. Other two players that spoke, only one of them got a question about Mississippi State. So not only does there appear to be maybe a distracted team and coaching staff, I think there's a distracted media because everybody's out there trying to chase this story,
Right.
not taking into account they got a game to play this weekend.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about Jeff Lebby. I feel like, you know, we are in this "what have you done for me lately" period of college football where coaches aren't granted 4 and 5 years to change things around because of the portal. And I just feel like he's done such a great job. This is what, year two for him, in already changing the product on the field. What do you attribute that to?
Well, good donors in the NCAA transfer portal for one, but I think also too that he has an opportunity, to make this program his own. And Zach Selman's the guy that hired him. They had a relationship with Oklahoma, so it's not like he was just a hired gun. I think a lot of people felt like he was one of the family because he's been in this conference. He coached at Ole Miss, knows the SEC, and which is kind of a de facto coach in waiting in many respects at Oklahoma for somebody. I mean, and I think he has a tremendous amount of support within the administration to build this the way that he wants to build it, and they've really stepped up, facility wise, and done some things really for the player amenities that needed to be done for a long time anyway. And so Jeff has a vision. He is kind of maybe terminally optimistic about life and about everything. He's a very, very positive person. But I don't think there's a naivety that goes along with it either. Jeff understands the expectations. And like even after the Tennessee game, he's like, people are like, Jeff, you guys played so well. And he goes, yeah, we got our ass kicked. We lost. And I think that's something the Mississippi State fans need to hear. We're not here for any moral victories. We're here to
Right.
win football games and compete for things of significance.
So if Mississippi State wins on Saturday, what went right?
Well, they didn't turn football over, and they protected the quarterback, and they were able to at least slow down the running game. I think all those things are important factors. And it's so interesting too. You go on the road, and the most difficult thing to do in the SEC is for the offense to communicate on the road.
Yeah.
I wonder how engaged this Florida crowd is going to be, especially if State gets a score early. If it's a game early, will they sit on their hands? Will they be rabid? I don't think that factors in as much as some people would like to think it does, but it is a factor. But the bottom line is, once the game starts and you kick it off, the media stuff doesn't matter. It's about 11 on 11 between the white lines, and I would have rather have had the last week that Mississippi State's had than Florida's had. I think Mississippi State goes into this thing a little more focused, and I think that's the main thing is you can't give Florida any reason to feel good early. Because I think if you can get into the second half within a score or even, you've got a really good chance to win this football game.
I do feel like the Gator fans, and I'm sure that this Gator fans at large, but this will translate to the crowd, are almost looking for a reason to quit. And so if if Mississippi State is able to strike early, I feel like it will be easier than normal to take the crowd out of the situation, given everything else that's going on. Do you have a score prediction in this one?
I actually like Florida in a close one, but by the time we kick off, I'll have convinced myself that State's going to win by a couple touchdowns. But if you had asked me earlier in the week, I'd say, you know what, Florida may cover. But with all this noise in the machine and all of this, you just never know how they're going to react. I mean,
Yeah.
Florida's a very talented team, and I think when you're the Florida fan, sometimes you can't see the Gators for the swamp, I guess.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, if they come out and play their best football, they're the more talented team in Mississippi State. It could be a difficult day, but I think Florida right now in a close one. But if you call and ask me on Saturday morning, I'll probably tell you otherwise. I just think there's just so much going on,
Yeah.
and I think if Albert Reese is back for Mississippi State, and we expect him to be, he was out against A&M, and of course you've had the benefit of the open date. He is Mississippi State's best lineman. In fact, he won the whole trophy, which was the best offensive lineman in the state of Mississippi last year. He's an NFL prospect. When State ran the football successfully against Tennessee, a lot of it was behind him. If he is anywhere close to 100%, I think that helps Mississippi State exponentially.
All right, Steve. Well, this was fun. Tell everybody where they can follow you and find your work.
I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And of course, we are genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. We will be in Gainesville covering the game. This is not a hobby for us. We are not keyboard cowboys. We are legitimate media, but you may look at me and think I look like somebody from the old west, and that's fine too, or something out of a corn video. But I work for myself, so I can grow my hair as long as I want to. But we'll staff the game, and anybody would like to see Mississippi State's coverage or reaction post game, we'll have all of that up for free over at genespage.com.
All right. Well, everybody make sure you go check it out. I appreciate you, Steve, and we will talk soon.
You guys take care.
Just before we go, a quick reminder on Sleeper. With my code PEEK, PEEK, you get a free $20 entry on the Sleeper app. No deposit needed, but check the Sleeper app and make some money with us this season. We appreciate Sleeper for their support.